Hey guys, Schultzmeister here. This is my first ever movie review, so please bear with me. This review is going to be on Godzilla King of Monsters. Basically, what I can gather so far is the movie starts off just like most of the movies before it, to where you're in the part where people are just gabbing along and trying to figure things out. But I guess according to any other movie review that I've watched here on YouTube, some people eat that part up, so I will try my best to re-envision that. Basically, their talk is about the legendary Titans, aka kaijus, as you would hear in certain video games and certain movies. That, I mean, over at El Rey, they would call it the Kaiju Christmas Marathon or whatever. But to get back on point, they bump into basically a special scripture that's been written down for ages that tells of each monster's past, but until they find a way to pretty much have that scripture measured out in the English language for them, the monsters are basically labeled in number. So basically, the first monster that they get to see visually is basically Mothra in his larval state. And they can sense a lot of good things about it. I see them smiling at the monster. Basically, they know this one's got a positive, more radiant energy about it. They then find a bump in with another monster. Which is basically King Ghidorah. They know not much of these much about these creatures, and there's a former family in there that at first considers the monsters to be a monstrosity amongst the planet, and then as you move later on down into the movie, they one half of that family seems to believe that the monsters are there to bring back order to the planet, that all of the human life is a virus and a plague to all mankind, and that these monsters are here to rectify that. Technically, that's when they start building upon something I've seen in one of the very old Godzilla movies, the Oxygen Destroyer. Ignore the dog. They build on the Oxygen Destroyer. They plan to land it down on King Ghidorah and Godzilla as they're fighting in the water. They think that it's going to basically destroy both monsters, but during the short, brief calm period, you see a bunch of dead fish, and what happens next is you see a big rush of water and King Ghidorah emerging from the water, and, well, Godzilla no longer to be found at that point. The daughter of the family doesn't like what the mom has pretty much set out to do. As soon as she figures out that Godzilla doesn't emerge from the water, she calls her mom a total monster and decides to run away from home. And here at this point, they're noticing that as soon as Godzilla doesn't emerge, and that King Ghidorah goes on top of the mountain where Rodan has just spawned from, gives a alpha roar that makes all monsters come out. My first take on my first take on all the monsters coming out is these are all the monsters coming out of Monster Island. And if you've watched the series of movies, you'll know what Monster Island is. It's the home to all the kaijus, aka the Titans in this movie. Also, they come to find out very much somewhere past the half point of this movie that they made a drastic mistake in knocking off Godzilla, considering he's the balance in this war. So one of the generals packs up a radioactive bomb and chooses to be the sacrifice. At this point, you find out the true origin why Godzilla goes under the water. This guy goes down in a miniature water vessel, climbs up this stairwell that looks like it's built on a pyramid, and there's Godzilla just laying down, unable to get up. And the guy pretty much sets up the radioactive bomb near Godzilla, puts his hand on Godzilla's face, and about seconds later after he does that, the radioactive bomb goes off, leaving a massive explosion from the water to most of the town. Which now revives Godzilla, and this is where the final clash and the final time that King Ghidorah and Godzilla will finally meet. The little girl is out there in the open area near the fights, almost gets blown away by King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
And King Ghidorah rears up one more time to try to shoot the girl with 3 beams. And as he's tilting back to power up, Here comes a blast from Godzilla to save the little girl and initiate the the final fight with King Ghidorah. And then somewhere in the middle of this fight, you see a bright light right behind Ghidorah. Mothra emerges from that light. And then as Mothra is trying to help Godzilla with Ghidorah, here comes Rodan to fight Mothra. Pretty good setup. Rodan starts to get the upper hand on Mothra, and as a last minute wounding blow to Rodan, Mothra brings one of his claws up and stabs right through the middle of Rodan's chest, giving him a momentary lapse to catch up. At this point, Godzilla's being pretty much overly massacred by King Ghidorah, and the family finally comes back together and agrees that they need to do something to help Godzilla out. So they rebuild this special device that will eventually lure a Titan slash kaiju once they see it. Okay, so at this point, this is where things become a saddened part in the family. The mother wants to redeem herself in her daughter's eyes by grabbing the bomb and luring King Ghidorah away from Godzilla long enough to give Godzilla an advantage. So she gives one last painful glimpse at her family from the plane. She gets in the Jeep. She goes driving down the rubble of the town. And all of a sudden, here comes King Ghidorah following her. King Ghidorah finally shoots a beam that rolls the van or the Jeep, and as soon as Mothra tries to attack King Ghidorah, he turns around and bats Mothra away. Here comes an awesome setup that you've never seen in any of the Godzilla movies. Mothra lays down on Godzilla trying to protect him, gathers a little bit of energy from Godzilla, his wings start glowing, and he charges toward King Ghidorah, getting hit with one last final blast from Ghidorah, and the collective energy from Mothra goes right down into Godzilla. And what saves the whole entire planet from extinction is Godzilla's a walking atomic bomb. He goes walking toward Ghidorah, lets off one atomic explosion, knocking Ghidorah down. Ghidorah thinks, hey, I should blast him and it might end this thing. Goes and blasts him. Another atomic explosion comes down, fully knocking King Ghidorah down. Godzilla plants his foot, destroys Ghidorah with that one stomp, and the last thing you see is Godzilla bringing the last of King Ghidorah's heads in his mouth up in the air, shoots it, and evaporates it. All the monsters come to Godzilla, bow down in acknowledgement that he's the new alpha and the new king of monsters. And practically that's the whole sum up of this movie. I mean, evidently we saw a different direction with this. I mean, I have a couple of nitpicks. Where in the world was Destroya? Where was Orga? Where was Space Godzilla? Where was Anguirus? I mean, unless they were saving this for a sequel, I'd understand then, but if this is the only Godzilla remake they're going to do, then they kind of like blew it big time by not adding every single monster, instead just, a few of them. Uh, Basically, I hope they I hope they do a sequel on this and add some more monsters. It'd make more sense. To me, it feels like they're going to, in my honest feeling and opinion, I believe what they're going to do is they're going to try to reenact every single old Godzilla movie and vamp it up and keep adding a few monsters every movie so the way they can drag this thing out. But that's my review, and if you guys got any more further thoughts on that, please leave it in the comments below. I mean, this this has been my first ever movie review that I'll do. Well, reviews plus spoiler. And well, if you like me doing this stuff, hit the like button, because I feel like this is another direction I should be taking the channel, is my personal takes on movies I've watched. See you guys.